We got a poet here for you. I said earlier, I like to think of this person as a poet, just all caps. She is wonderful. So let me introduce her to you. She is a former elementary school teacher, but also a poet, a playwright, and a performer. Her poems have actually gained over 2 million views on YouTube and have won her a National Underground Poetry Championship. Her debut book of poems, you may have seen this somewhere, Even the Saints Audition, won an award for Best New Poetry Collection by a Chicagoan in 2019. She co-created, and until COVID at least, if my understanding is correct, co-hosted a monthly poetry show in Chicago called the Big Kids Slam. And she has also given voice to a few different characters, including one in a Jackbox video game called Madverse City, and another in an upcoming Cartoon Network animation series called Batu. Please welcome the very talented Raych Jackson.
Hi, thank you so much. Let me grab this too, because my cord. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Hello. I am very excited to be here. And so it'll go like, I'm gonna do a little talk. It'll be real quick. I'm gonna do some poems, and some of them we're gonna be looking at together on the screen, and then we're gonna have a Q&A section at the end. So my name is Raych Jackson, Raychel Jackson, but if you notice, I got a little Y there, and I'm gonna tell you a quick story why I put the Y. Let me stop, because I almost slapped my knee. No, why, so when you type in Rachel Jackson on Google, Andrew Jackson's wife pops up, the old president. Yeah, that was devastating for me. It was this idea that no one was gonna know who I am, no one was gonna know my art, and I was like 13 or 14 at the time when Google became like this really big thing. And then I threw a Y in it because my family calls me Raych, and I was like, well, in my heart, 15 years ago, right, because I'm 30, I was like, I'm gonna be famous. So I put a Y in my name. And it ties into what I do. So I'm an educator, performer, a writer, and then I also do social media marketing. So the idea of like putting something on the internet and pushing it to people excites me so much. So that's a little story about my name. And then I also wrote this book. Here it is. I was like, where's that? Even the Saints Audition. And what this book does is explores me growing up in a household that really pushed religion and just dealing with like different religious traumas. I write about different substance abuse that happened. And then I talked about like coming into myself just as a human, as a woman. So with writing, I'm going to have you take 3 takeaways. The first one is someone is going to connect to your story regardless. I think that whether you're a writer, whether you are a designer, whether you rap or, are a musician, musicians are rappers, yes. Your work is going to touch someone, and I think that when I initially used to start writing, I used to feel very nervous that no one was going to identify with they're not going to hit all the boxes, right? They're not all going to be a black girl from the south side of Chicago who struggled with religious trauma and substance abuse in her family. But if one connected, and as the poem started rolling out, one poem connected to one person, they checked one box, it really got me going. So it's interesting to know that I wrote these poems when I was feeling alone, but they really connected with people. The second thing I want you to take away with is like keep your creativity, fight for your creativity. I say this and I don't actually post this online because I don't want a paper trail, but I had to fight for this cover, like really tooth and nail, like really like put my foot down that I needed a cover that I liked because this is my first book and I don't care if you as a publisher think that, a black and white cover is gonna do good. I want color, right? And so I compared it to something where if whatever project you're working on, whether it's visual art, whether it's writing, if someone is like, I don't like that. I think that you should change it. You got to stick to your guns because you like it. Because not everyone out there is going to like your work. And once you get over that, not every, what is it? My granny used to say, you're not always going to be everyone's cup of tea. oh well, put some sugar in it, baby, because I'm gonna still make it, So that's like the second thing. I really want you all to keep in mind, stick to your guns, fight for your creativity. And then the last thing before we just jump right into it is rants are poems. I think that like when something happens and you're like, I am so upset, I'm gonna write it down, and you journal it or whatever, that is a poem in itself. I think that sometimes let me speak for myself. I think that I was really taught that poetry was this super intense and intricate thing. Like, I keep dissing Shakespeare. I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. I'm always dissing Shakespeare. It's not on purpose, but poetry is Shakespearean eloquence that you need. And then it became this thing where I felt shamed because well, maybe my poems are simple. Maybe I'm not doing what I need to do. But rants are poems, and I think that, we have another class coming in. I think that that's just one last thing that I want to leave you with before I start. Am I going to start? Well, I'll tell a little story while they're coming in. Speaking of rants being poems and just having to validate yourself and that sort of thing, I write about religious trauma and I write about growing up in the church. And so one thing that I had to do was before I cut my hair, I had to ask for permission. And that's a thing, hair holds value. The women in the church, they don't cut their hair, they grow it out. You can get it styled, but you're not dyeing it. You're not doing anything too wild to it. So I had to ask for permission to cut my hair. And when I told my mom, hey, I was 24, and, I'm a grown woman at this point, right? And I was 24, and I told my mom, hey, I'm going to cut my hair. You would have thought I told my mom that I just stabbed 3 people. You would have thought that I just told her that, on the way in, something terrible just happened to me, because it just was such a gut-wrenching thing. My mom was like, oh, my God, please don't cut your hair. And she equated short hair to masculinity. She just did all of these things. And, it became this thing where I was like, I know that I'm going to be top tier bald-headed or not, right? But this is something I want to do, and this is something I'm going to do. And I made a joke last period where I was like, we've all asked for permission, but knew we were going to do it anyway. Just me? Oh, okay, I see some, yeah. So I asked permission, but I knew where I was gonna go. We went right to the hair shop and knocked it off. But I wrote a rant that eventually turned into a poem, and I'm gonna share it with you. And it's called Church Girl Defends Her Haircut. I remind them Samson was weak, well before his cut, set his strength in fragile strands. Faith that strong is bound to leave you chopped. Got the whole world convincing you I need more. Contorted Rapunzel, eager to walk in storms now. Bald weeping willow, still a decoration. Still bite and roar, laced with a neck roll. Ain't a lion, still a lion, without his mane. Thank you. Hair. And then as I'm feeling like the baddest bald-headed girl in the world, boom, my bald spots appear, right? So keep in mind, my hair was covering them, but you could see, and that was finally, I'm making a PowerPoint presentation of my bald spots, bam, right? But after I, cut off all my hair because I want to feel beautiful, 2 bald spots emerge above each ear, and at this point, I'm just devastated, right? I didn't already, fought against beauty standards, and here's another beauty standard that I gotta step on the throat of it, right? And it was hard. They formed because my mom was very, she just picked out my hair and wanted to make me super presentable, and it was this real thing to make sure my baby hair looked good, and 30 years later, I had bald spots. So what I did was really just tackle it, and I wrote an ode to my bald spots. And so what an ode is it's essentially a love poem, right? Where you're saying your love for something, and you just write a poem for it, appreciating it, right? Ode to my cell phone, ode to the charger. Sorry, I just love it. Ode to, what did I say? A cheeseburger, no onions, extra pickles, because please do not put no onions on my burger. But those things, those moments that you hold sacred, that you love, you'll write a poem about it. And it is very uncommon to write a poem about your insecurities, but I really did want to challenge myself, because at this point, what I'm gonna do, spray paint it in? You know, have you ever seen people like that spray it in? I'm not gonna do that, right? Like, I'm gonna love every part of me. So I did write a poem to My Insecurity, and we're gonna look at it together. So, yeah, okay. And it's titled Ode to the Bald Spots Above My Ears because I struggle naming poems, honestly. Like, if you ever read a poem title of mine, you're gonna be like, I know exactly what this is about. Anyway, before I read it, you know, I wanted to point out a couple things about form, right? So this is a poem about spaces, and so you see a lot of spaces where, you know, I'm trying to envision like where some are, well, they're all purposeful, but some makes more sense than others. So the space, it's more in the middle of the poem. It goes beauty, and it's like this big gap, is the naps. And then a little bit above it, my poor space, undeserving splotches. And we'll talk a little bit more about it later. Hopefully I have time about like how poetry is, you know, words, and it also is visuals. That's what makes it so exciting. Sorry, I'm like giggling because like I love writing. So I'm gonna read Ode to the Bald Spots Above My Ears. I never asked for them, obviously. Pools of smooth skin, open spaces shining from the grease. I brush my hair quicker. My bald spots make it easier for me to slide on my glasses. I smothered them under curtains of perms and braids. Told them it was their fault. Everyone picks on me at school. My poor, undeserving splotches, formed by my mother's desperate fingers, can't rip out beauty from the naps. Beauty is the naps. Every crooked tooth comb that tore through the clusters is dead to me. Resilient blotches will always live on, have more room to settle. A country pulled out of the unwanted. My fashionable traumas, glinting battle wounds I show off now, proof of all I have to take to be acceptable. Tombstones set above each ear to mark where my hair was mangled and uprooted, an anthem I always hear. Thank you. So you know, before I move on to the next poem too, I meant to say this last time, and I mean to say this every time I write this poem, or read this poem. It's like, it's a little challenge to myself that I do still, right? Like, whether it's something about me that I'm just really not proud of, that like I can't change. Like, now we're not going, you know, like, therapy can change some things, right? But I'm talking about like physical attributes that I'm like, well, it is what it is. Like, I can't change that. I need to learn how to love different parts of me. So if you ever like feeling a little challenged, write an ode to yourself. Like, you know, it's nice because I literally at one point would have been so embarrassed about that picture that I sent in, right? Where I'm like, right? I would have been so embarrassed because of that bald spot. Like, and this is me being vulnerable, because that's my life. But I would have been like, so just like, oh my God, like I can't believe they, you know, like, why didn't I just do this to my hair? I could have wore a hat. And, you know, 6 years later, I'm like, it is what it is. And part of it does come from me writing this poem. So this next piece, we're gonna dip a little bit in mood, but I promise you I'm gonna raise it back up, all right? But, you know, not every poem could be happy, not every poem could be like cha-cha-cha. And so a part of this book does talk about my childhood and just dealing with different, being raised around people that unfortunately suffer from different addictions. And it's very similar to what I was talking about, where you can make rants out of poems. Is a rant that eventually became a poem. So before I move on, has not anyone, but anybody in here watched Criminal Intent? Nobody watches Spencer Reed. All right, now we're lying. Somebody out here watches Criminal Intent. Nobody watches Criminal Intent? Criminal Minds. What did I say? Oh my God, I'm in Criminal Minds. Thank you. Hold me down. Thank you. I appreciate you. Criminal Minds. Okay, all right, I said it wrong. Okay, I was like, I know it's Criminal Intent. Criminal Minds. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Criminal Minds once I said Spencer Reed, y'all were like, yeah, I know that show. All right. But there, you know, if you're unfamiliar with the show, you know, we won't get into all the gore, but they start off most of the earlier seasons with a quote. And it's like a quote they say that's supposed to wrap into the episode, and then, you're like, oh, that's what they mean, right? But I was watching Criminal Minds, not Intent, and there was a quote that happened, and I had to literally pause the episode, and then I started writing a rant. Because it hit home. And so this next piece is called Dragon, and I'm going to show it, the wonderful AV team is going to show Dragon here, thank you. And I'm going to read along with it, or I'm going to read it, and we're going to talk about it a little bit, and then I promise you we're going to raise the mood, but this is not a happy poem. Here we go. Here's the quote. Fairy tales do not tell children that the dragons exist. Children already know that dragons exist. Fairy tales tell the children that the dragons can be killed. G.K. Chesterton. We build bunk beds out of couches, stack cousins on brothers on nieces. Leather from the couch's seats forces your cheek to be smooth. It's a lullaby. Massaging faces and ears drowns out stampedes of search parties looking for your mother under the nearest crack rock. There's a vein on your ankle, puffing its chest out for attention. We all have one. Royal blue hidden entryways that elevate our fathers' thrones even higher. Parading the insides of our elbows during family reunions. No need for long sleeves. Admire the crevices between our toes. Play games with us. Hide and seek with track marks. Hot potato with relatives' couches that'll force your cheeks to be smooth. We welcome cloak addiction. It is the thread that sews us together. Without it, we'd be separated, exposed, strung out. Monster, I know where you hide. Syringes give you neck cramps. Instead, spread your wings over well-groomed adults and silent children littered with blisters from mopping their mother's face prints off the floor. Why do you need your spoon so much? It's family dinner time. Put photos up over the reminders, bedtime stories for the couch, long tales rock you to sleep. I'm sorry you believe us. Practice fairy tales about killing dragons, winged narratives circling exactly how she died. All right. Whew. Thank you. So it was a great question that comes up about the slashes. What do the slashes mean? For me, the slashes mean each beat. Like you could pause in between, and also the phrases in between each slash are a poem in themselves, is how I envision it. Because honestly, if you ask another poet what my slashes might mean or what their slashes mean, it might mean something different. But there's a couple of things that I want to focus on. There is a part here. Right at its thread. It's the thread in the middle part. When I first wrote the poem, it was like long, but I did a lot of spaces. But each slash provides a beat and like emphasis so we can get to the final point. So it's kind of like each step to a problem till you get to the actual answer. So it's the thread that sews us together. Without it, we'd be separated, exposed, strung out. And so eventually you get to the actual statement of strung out. And then another thing I do in this poem is I talk and play with, dragon is a slang term for a certain substance. And so you'll see a lot of references about wings or monsters and that type of fairy tale land. And so when I write, and then we can talk about this in the Q&A, but I try to circle it, and like I will hammer a metaphor down. And so I will stay around the subject, I will stay on the subject, and we'll dance on the subject, and we'll come back to it again. And this is the oldest poem in the book. This is probably the poem that's most dear to me in the book. But that's that. And there was one more point that I'm kind of like, we'll see if someone points it out. But there's that. Thank you for staying with me for that little heavy poem. We're gonna raise it back up real quick, and I'm gonna join y'all in the front. All right, all right. So I am, when I cut off all my hair, well, this isn't true. Before I cut off all my hair, I was extra. But, like, I'm extra now, right? I literally have bleached eyebrows. But one thing about me that is not evident right now, but is evident in the picture, is that I wear long nails. I love long nails. I think that acrylics are just beautiful. I think that they're like the icing on my hand's cake. Like, I think that they are just wonderful. Fun fact, in this picture, the acrylics that I have on glow in the dark. Like, I am that extra that if we were out and it was nighttime and I would hold it up to the light and then like we would cover it and we would see, like that's how extra I am. However, and if anyone has worn acrylics, they are not the easiest to maneuver around. Pop cans are a trial, buttoning, putting on your shoes are a trial. It's a lot. Like, are you fly? Yes. Are you struggling to open a door? Yes. And so my friend actually led a workshop where she was talking about vices. And she was just like, there are things that we hold dear to us that really aren't necessary. Do we like them? Yes. Are they necessary? No. And after deep diving, if you ever did like a workshop or like just any writing where you're like, wow, this is great, I wrote a poem about my nails. Because again, while they are great, are they efficient? Not exactly. This is titled, Even My Nails Hurt Me. My nails fall in love with everything but my hands. They commit to slam doors and cracks in the couch, quietly rip themselves from my fingers while my blood makes the sound. I try to keep my nails on my hands and my fingers with super glue and enlist keys to pry open pop cans. Change the shape my nails naturally grow into. I am their sun. Shave the sides of their heads. I am their shadow. Still, they want out. Even when I tend to their needs before mine, I dress my nails in glitter without asking and paint them the color I deserve to feel. No costume can make them belong to me. I hoped they'd miss me. Instead, they giggle under dust piles with my skin attached to their backs, mauled plastic chunks hiding in the corners of my apartment, thrilled to be free. Thank you. And, along the lines of me being extra, I wrote that poem about vices while I was looking at a broken fingernail on my finger. And then after I wrote that poem, I really was like, but how does the broken fingernail feel? Like, and that's why I love writing and literacy and just being like, what other place are you like, what do you think about that broken fingernail though? Like, what do they think? And so I wrote it. Here's a poem from the broken fingernail. But one quick thing to note is it's a sestina, so you're gonna hear a lot of repeating words. It's a poetry form that I like to play with that we could definitely talk about at the end. But you're gonna hear a couple of repeating poems from the broken fingernail. It must be nice to always be part of the family and to never question if your presence is welcome. I am a rotating disappointment, a peaceful tune until the record scrape, trying to make you see the beauty within the jagged, the rich dirt as gold. Dare I compare myself to gold? I don't have anyone who claims me as family. No one is praised for being jagged, and even a sword is smooth on its sides and still welcome, despite the cut, despite the scrape. And when I'm perfect again, I will be accepted by my family. Only beings that look the same on these hands can be welcome. And shine me until I am sparkling gold. Mold my parts and create a family. Finally, I can have results from the scrape. Rub myself against the hand so she too can feel the jagged. Wonder if the pain is always worth the family. And what happens if you can't reshape disappointment? Throw acetone on what pretends to be gold and watch the beauty burn away with the welcome. After the appointment, she shows off what is no longer jagged. Effortless hand motions cutting through the disappointment. If her hand waves fast enough in the blur, we may all look like family. Thank you, thank you. Okay. So, I'm actually pretty excited because I got more time with you all. Cool. I'm gonna read the poems that I didn't get a chance to read for other people. It was a really great question that someone asked where they last period, where they were like, well, how did you get into playwriting? And I was like, because the poem that I wrote was actually not good, and someone was like, this should be a play. And so I teeter-totter around prose a lot. And I don't know if you all have ever have a memory of just being outside with your friends. And for me, after church, we would have quarter pickles and snow cones for $1 and bags, chips, or whatever. And it was all inside the back parking lot. And so I'm going to read that. I'm going to start in the middle. I love this parking lot, my first playground. The cracks in the asphalt near the back fence mark the section for Foursquare. Junie has a corner store in her trunk for the children who can't get out the gate. Janisha unbraids her rope, and we claim the territory in front of the shed. Church mothers remind us to slow down when we jump and refasten the barrettes that fly off our braids. They scold the girls, showing their knees, while the colorful wide-brim hats hit each other. I wish every part of this church was the back parking lot, the only place God won't divide us. Where else can I learn the juke slide in lace socks and church shoes? Where else can I fight Marie and pray she gets home safely? I want the back parking lot, the snow cones my cousin sold under the air conditioner, and the dance parties on the side of the garage. I want the dares, the flying footballs, and double dutch competitions. And I want to stay outside until our moms pretend to leave us. I want to lean against the shed and gripe about my unpierced ears. I need my community. If only I could snatch the back parking lot up and stuff it under my shirt. I know stealing is a sin, but so is loneliness. All right, I said I was done with the sad poems. All right. I'm gonna read two more. And then I will open it up to the Q's and A's. I'm gonna read one more, actually. So, the whole book is me struggling with God, my life, da-da-da-da-da. And then, there's actual... All right, so the Bible story of Rachel, right, is that she was just this beautiful woman, and Jacob, he walking along, he sees her, and he's like, whoa, what's up with her? Goes to her father. He's like, you got to work 7 years for her. He ends up accidentally marrying her sister. And instead of being like, oh, okay, that's good, he really wanted Rachel, so he decided to work 7 more years. And there is a scripture that praises Rachel's beauty. And lo and behold, guess whose name is also Rachel, Yeah. And so this is titled It Is Written. It is off of a scripture. There's an actual scripture in the Bible, Genesis 29:17, where they praise Rachel's beauty. And what can I say? It's something in that name. It's very similar to the old poem, ODE, the Ode to the Bald Spots poem, where I was talking about how, finally something I can turn into positivity. So this is called It Is Written. It is the last poem in my book, and here we go. Genesis 29:17, Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. I am literally not kidding. Every time I tell someone this, they're like, that's not in the Bible. I'm like, look it up. Even the Bible knows I'm fine. Look it up yourself. The story is the same. In all versions, I'm a hit. Jacob worked 14 years for Rachel, so I know Shorty was a head turner. Might have to peruse the good book more often. I'm done sitting through sermons that remind me I'll burn soon. Never quick enough. Today, the word, TM, shouts me out. Finally, an affirmation crawling under the attacks. I hear your message loud and clear, God. I am a dime. That is indeed top of the line. Your prophet wrote that I'm beautiful. I'm even well-favored. Is her name pronounced Leah or Leah? I don't remember. The first half of the scripture is honestly boring, but the second half is a masterpiece. Thank you. All right. Ooh, perfect. I try to stop within 10 minutes or so to make sure that, you all can ask me any questions, about my art, about my work. And then if we are done, I would love to hear what music you all are listening to. So I may look youthful, but I am 30 and, I'm trying to stay hip. I'm trying to stay down, So if we have enough time, I would love to hear what music you all are working on. And you all could possibly put me on some things. But first, any questions about my artistry or anything, any aspects of my life as concerned to the book? Yes? No, it's not legal at all. Like, literally, my legal name is Rachel. And I know when people refer to me as Raychel that they're, like, trying to guess. But I never legally changed my name. Like, I just proclaimed when I was, like, 13 that my name is Raych. And everybody was like, that's right. Which is how it should be, honestly. Like, it's a great question. Yes? Great question. Great questions. I don't set a timer up for poems. If you notice today, some of my poems were long and some of my poems were short. My mentor was one of the people that said, like, there are no finished poems, just abandoned ones. So your first question, I don't have a full answer to that because once it's done, it's done. So it could take me days. It could take me an hour. And I could be like, bam, I'm done. And then, can you remind me of your second question? Sorry. Do I work on multiple poems at once? Yes. It's, so if I have a deadline, like for this, I had 20 poems at first, and I'm working on all these poems at the same time. And it does become hard when we talk about voice and making sure that each tone is, good for each poem. But I do work on multiple poems at once. Would not advise it, but when I have a deadline, I have a deadline. Great question. Yes. Very good. You noticed that. Can I answer that? We talked about that. So they asked, why did I cross out the metal? I play with visual poems a lot. If you've noticed in Dragon, that means you were really looking. Thank you. I crossed out the word metal. How do I answer this? Well, I'll tell you about the strike through. The reason I add strike through that line through my poem is because I want you to see it, but I want you to not see it as well. And it draws attention to it. I think that a metal spoon has its own connotations as far as like substance abuse. So I wanted the word metal to be there, but I kind of wanted other people to kind of wonder what was going on with it as well. So is that the word? That's not the word. It's kind of like a look here, but the real word is here. What's that, red herring? Is that it? Right? Like, I want you to look here, but the real message is under it. That is as close as I can get while staying G-rated of why metal was crossed out. I hope I answered your question, but I can't dive deep into it. I hope I answered it, though. I'm trying to stay G-rated. Any other questions? That was really great. We could talk one-on-one. Yes? Great question. They asked, what's my process when I create my art? I am a loud writer. And what that means is, as we were talking about turning rants into poems, I'll write a title or I'll write a topic on something I want to write, and then I'll start writing. And then I'll read it out loud. Like, the cat walked up the hill. Like, okay, the cat walked up the hill, and then the cat did this, and then I'll read it out loud. So it's like auditory learning, right? I don't want to throw out a term. Somebody could probably help me out with that. But my process is I like to hear how it sounds as well as see it on the page. So I know a lot of people write in silence. I cannot do that. I'm talking loud. I'm blasting music. I'm like rereading it over and over again to make sure that there's a good flow. So that's my process. It was a great question. Let's go here. Yes. I'm so sorry. After you, I'm going to go to this side. My bad, y'all. Yes. I always have been like that kid that's like extra because of the church I grew up in. Performance is heavy in the church I grew up in, so I knew tech when I was like 6 years old. Like, we really worked with lighting and stuff. But as far as writing, I was like 10 or 11. I don't remember the exact age, but I know I started performing my poetry when I was 12 because my 6th grade teacher cut aside time for me to read my poems to the class. So I think 11, 12 was when I really was like, this is something I can do. Like, this is something I'm good at. Shout out teachers. Like, this whole section could be about teachers. So let's say 11 or 12. We'll go gray shirt, and then I think there was someone further back. Yes? Do I have any more information about the different plays I wrote? Sure. So I don't even know if I shared this because it's kind of blurring together, but like, someone asked how I got into playwriting, and I was like, that's because I was writing terrible poems, and like, they needed to be in a different form. So how I got into playwriting is through just genre bending. Lately, my latest poem, or my latest plays, are on pause. My last play was like in 2018 at the Words Festival in Lucerne. And that's where they paired me with a Switzerland artist. And he had like robots, and I wrote the poem in Lucerne, Switzerland, and then we made a play together. It was really cool, actually. But I haven't written a poem, or I haven't written a play in like 2 or 3 years. That's a great question. Did I miss someone over here? Yes. Sure. Yeah. Great questions. They said, when did I start publishing, and where can I get the book? You can get the book anywhere. If you have an indie local bookstore, I'm there. And then I'm on Amazon, or you can go to Button Poetry site and get it. And then publishing itself is a monster, where and I'll say this. I got not lucky, but like, we're talented, you're great. But it was networking that got me this first book deal. And I'm gonna keep it real with you. Like, it was like literally my foot was in the door. And then I had a poem skyrocket on YouTube, and then the publisher came to me. That is not always the case. But I still make submission packets, and we could talk one-on-one about that, where, you have a cover letter and you're like shopping yourself to different publishers. So there are great local mags, or that are in this area, like Poetry Magazine, and I'm thinking of Rhino, that are Chicago area based, that like give more love to Chicago people if you're trying to start off and get off your feet off the ground. Any other questions? Any other questions? All right, what are y'all listening to? This is serious. I told you, I was like, we got 3 more minutes. Anybody you want to put me on? Somebody really plugged their friend last period. I need hands, though, because it's going to get crazy. Anybody that you're like, you need to listen to this person right now, Rachel. No one. Everybody is listening to air in their AirPods. All right. Oh, yes. Phoebe Bridges. I saw Phoebe Bridges at Pitchfork last year. Was it Pitchfork? Yeah, it was Pitchfork. Yeah, I did. Brilliant. A show, like, from start to finish. Like, anyone else? Anyone on this side? Yes. Oh, come on, someone that I wouldn't know. But yeah, he's dope. He's very dope. He makes hits. And also, I'm on the TikTok. He does a lot of TikTok trends. They're like, I'm on the YouTube, I'm on the TikTok. Anyone else? No one has anyone passionate that they're like, you need to listen to. Well, I'll say it. Any Kate Tronada fans? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yes, right here. I can't see your hand. I am aware. I am hip. See, this is making me feel good about myself. I'm hip. I am down. Like, I am with the youth. I am telling you, I'm very cool. Kate Tronada is what I'll put you all on. Does anyone know Kate Tronada? No one? K-A-Y Tronada? Okay. I was like, come on, Kate Tronada. I literally wrote my book to 99.9%. Anybody familiar with Saba? S-A-B-A? From Pivot Gang? Yeah, those are my favorite. No Name. Anybody know No Name? She's a brilliant rapper. And then she causes a lot of controversy, but she inspires a lot of people. Azealia Banks. I like her music. Her as a person is iffy, but she's great. And so anyone else? We got like 3 more minutes. I do. I listen to Kanye. Yeah. I mean, he's a Chicago legend. Can't be mad at it. Last couple of albums where I like Chance. I like Chance a lot. Chance is great. Anybody else? Yes. Wait. The only thing that I ask is that we let the people go. Go ahead. I'm so sorry. Oh, FK Twigs. And you said Dirk. I listen to Dirk. Well, fun fact about FK Twigs, she was like a dancer before. Oh, FK Twigs used to be like a brilliant background dancer of like some of your great famous people. She was background dancing, and then was like thinking about the genre. She dipped from dancing, which is an art in itself, and went to music officially. Yeah, one of my favorite genre bending artists. All right, well, I don't want to hold it. Oh, yes. Listen, my queen is free. Britney Spears, she free. She free. Britney Spears, listen, that makes me feel happy because I told y'all I'm 30, but like in the 2000s, Britney was like number one. All right, that is a talented queen who is now free and doing her thing. Someone else asked about my process in this area, and that was a great question. I do listen to music. So when you all do your homework, do you all listen to music and such, or you all keep it quiet? Oh yeah, right? So yeah, or some people, it's like kind of split. Yeah, I like to, you love it. Yeah, I love listening to music while I work. I think that, I feel like it's important, but Okay. I got 2 more minutes. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's really the lights. I'm not ignoring you. I can see your hand. I'm so sorry. Go ahead. Omar Apollo. Do you know? So then you would like Kaina. Have you ever heard of Kaina? She opened for him. Kaina. She's a Chicago legend. Kaina. You all should look her up if you like Omar Apollo. That is my bestie. Omar Apollo just dropped the album. I did not know that. Thank you. Last one, because I feel like the bell is ringing any moment, and I want to respect that. Yes. I am only familiar with Before He Cheats by Carrie Underwood. I'm sorry. That's literally the only country song I know, but put me on. I'm literally I dug my, that's my jam. But anything else, I truly don't know. I'm sorry. I don't want to front. I don't know that too well. With that, I welcome back the teacher. Anything else you wanted to say before we close it? Oh, wait, we actually have an official question.
It's not nearly as cool as the music question, but you said earlier when you get into like a writer's block situation, you read. Is there anything you're reading lately that you would recommend?
Anything I'm reading lately, I talked about it last time. I read comics. I think Calvin and Hobbes is brilliant. Does anyone know Calvin and Hobbes? I think I have Hobbes tattooed on my arm, but I have on a sleeve. Hobbes, the way Calvin sees the world has really been changing. If I'm writing as a character, I think that he sees the world. Yeah, I read comics. Calvin and Hobbes and Peanuts are great. And the Boondocks. So yes. This is great. I really did it with the time. Last time we were squeezing it in. This time I'm like, ooh, living life in luxury with time. Thank you.